this may be one of the more loved scenarios in some ways. Certainly, for me, it shows some promise that some of the others don't. And it's actually the next one in the series, so I figured I'd do it. So Christ is the first triumvirate. You're going to have, Crassus, Pompey, and Kaiser. And on the other side of things, you have Cicero, sort of opposing the triumvirate in general, along with the opponents of Rome. And the opponents of Rome in this case consist of the Gauls, and they're kind of around the edges of Gaul, because we'll just call them Caesar, yeah? Not use the proper ancient Latin here. I don't know. I'll probably mix it up. It's just the tendency of things, because sometimes I feel guilty for one side or sometimes for the other. So the Gauls are largely placed around the border. This is some of Caesar's allies here. Pompey's down here. We can't avoid that, right? Cicero is these red pieces, and he has the majority of the empire in terms of economics, all of their navies. And then Crassus has his forces over here. However, in addition to this, the triumvirates are all here, and there's special rules, and that's part of what makes this a little bit more interesting, is some of the special rules for this scenario. We also have Galatia, which I have not set up yet for some reason. We'll have to get those on the board. There's going to be a small stack of black pieces there to deal with Pompey. And Parthia Medea. Now over here, these are Crassus's allies in the east. Parthia Medea is these dark brown. They don't look too scary. Honestly, Caesar's facing the scarier of the scaries. Let's look at some of the special powers. I really ought to set up. Let me get those Galatians set up. Back to it. First of all, this is period 1 still, which means we're still using the period 1 chart. I'm going to erase some things from there for whenever that matters. All right, let's look. The first of the major powers is the Gauls. They have 110 morale. They're barbarians. They're not going to use normal taxation. They don't have a lot of taxation available in their areas. They have a replacement rate of 6. They're using yellow and orange, which you can kind of see here. There's some down there. Like I said, they're kind of along the edges here with the exception of that. Peace. They have no special rules. They're barbarian replacement rate straight up. The only actually, I lied. They do have a special rule. If their morale goes below 50, they no longer get replacement points. So Caesar's got a way to beat them up early there. The next one, the Caesar faction, 115 morale. Not a big tax base, $14. He's got Cisalpine, Narbonensis, and Illyricum, giving him kind of the cap on top of Italy. Only worth $14. He's got 115 morale, an ACER. Speaking of which, the Gauls are only a CCER, which means that's a 2-point bonus in favor of Caesar for every combat. He has some Gallic allies, who are CERC over here. He's allowed to build fleets in basically Gallic areas, Aquitania, Lugdunensis, and Belgica. Will allow him to go into Britannia, chase down the last of the Gauls if he needs to. At any of those ports, it'll cost him twice normal mobilization costs, but he doesn't have to give up legions from anywhere in order to build them. He'll get $1 for every 10 strength points of Gallic units he eliminates in combat. His allied units do not replace their one-shotters, so he probably doesn't want to spend them if he can help it, but they're crappy. Pompey, morale is 100. He also has a tax base of 14. In his case, it's basically the Hispania region. By the way, not Galatia, Galatia. I seem to remember there is a Galatia. What am I thinking of? Like, I don't... In ancient... I don't know. I know that there's some kind of confusing things that surprise... Oh, there it is. There's Galatia. Yes. All right. Pompey does not have a huge force. Then again, I don't know that Caesar has a tremendously huge force either. And he's facing a bunch of barbarians there. That's a big stack. More than can be there, but it has a supply wagon. So if Pompey gets the jump and runs over and attacks him, well, could be a quick game that way. But all right, Crassus. Crassus is over here in the east. He has a big treasury, $33, morale of 80. He has a bigger tax base of 20 because of the eastern provinces. Most notably, Syria is worth 15. So he has a big bonus with that. He does have CERA, but his allies are CERB. And his allies replace the way miners replace, the same way the barbarian Gauls replace. Which means they have a replacement rate which should be written somewhere. I'm having trouble finding it. I am not seeing his replacement rate. Oh, for Pompey, he gets 1 point of money for every 10 strength points of Galatians he kills. Crassus has a replacement rate of 3 in addition to what he has. His army does not look huge either. But with the allies, it's not tiny. He's got restrictions on them, though. The allied 16 nines can't be used outside of Syria and Judea. However, one of them starts out here in Cappadocia, or a stack of them starts out in Cappadocia. I don't know what's up with that, and I assume there are no big guys here. He has, in his Roman forces, horse archers. Horse archers cannot be produced by Romans in this era. They're there. He will not be able to replace them if they're lost. Okay, Cicero. Cicero has a morale of 90, a tax base of 49. Like I said, he has the majority of the empire. Africa, Italy, well, maybe not Italy, but Key and Imperium, the Greek areas. Asia Minor, the islands. He's got a CER of A as well. The Romans are good here. The big thing he has is almost the entirety of the red countermix's fleets. This is probably not enough to keep him in the game if somebody decides to knock him out. Onward. Parthia Medea, over here in the brown trunks. Morale of 110. They're going to be using that special civilized recruitment, which means that they have to use replacement rate and money. Now, they have a CER of B, but their cav units have a CER of A. All of their units, and their units are all either light infantry or regular cav, are considered archers. Okay. Galatia, over in Spain, has a morale of 100 with a replacement rate of 3. Big pile of units, 5 20-point barbarian pieces. That's going to be tough to do. There's a special restriction. They're going to be controlled by the Gauls. They can't stack with the Gauls. We have an inactive minor power of Egypt. Crassus has a couple of client states, Armenia and Cappadocia, which he can travel through. And if the Parthians want to attack them, they could add them to his forces. Cicero has client states as well: Galatia, Lycia, and Pamphylia, Numidia, Rhodes, Thrace, and Asia. He actually doesn't start with Asia. which is not on his list, so we're good. There's some errata in all of these, well, in many of these. And I think we go up to scenario 7, between 4 and 7 without. Which doesn't mean there shouldn't be some. Just probably means. And then Parthia Medea has its own client states as well. Oh, Caesar has the Alps. Charax, Elymaes, and Hyrcania. Elymaes, Charax, Hyrcania. I mean, basically areas that aren't going to help, but if he needs to run back there, they can. All right, this game is intended to be played optimally with 5 players. It ranges anywhere from 4 to 6. We're doing a 6-player version just because even though the Gauls might not have much of a chance of winning, it would be, to me, it's kind of cooler to allow the more players. I find it more enjoyable that way. Rather than the alternative is, let's see, in 5 players, Parthia, Medea, the Gauls, and the Galicians will all be the same player. If you go down to 4, you have the different triumvirs controlling the opponents of their other triumvirs, which might work okay, but you can do some gamey shit that's not good under those conditions. Okay. At the beginning of the scenario, all the Roman factions are considered allied. This alliance remains until a civil war breaks out, regardless of how the players want to work. As long as the alliance is in play, the Romans may permit other factions to mobilize units in the areas, as long as the faction has a leader in the area. At the beginning of each taxation and mobilization phase, you roll 2 dice. If the modified roll ends up equal to or greater than 12, there's a civil war. And the 3 turns following March 55 BC. Well, we're starting in 55 BC. That'll be running into the early summer part. Those give you a +1. If the Gauls are destroyed, it's +2. Parthian, Median destroyed, +1. If Cicero dies, it's +1. If Crassus or Pompey is dead, it's -1. And if Caesar is dead, it's -2. The players don't actually have to do a civil war. They can keep agreeing for mutual alliance. There should be some forts that I don't have down. These are in transient city hexes. They will not be removed from the game map for any reason. They act in all ways like normal forts, though. Any other forts are subject to the regular rules. Rome's the imperial capital. Morale is still 8. We're using a civil war. We're using the special leader rules, which, geez, I know the leaders can walk on water and can conduct naval invasions. Parthian Medea is used rule 26. All right, the important thing, the victory conditions. Caesar has to eliminate 300 Gallic strength points or cause the Gauls to dissolve and be the sole imperator. Cicero, sole imperator. Crassus, 100 Parthian Median strength points or cause Parthia Medea to dissolve and be sole imperator. The Gauls, they have to control what they started with plus Narbonensis and Cisalpine. That's not likely. Pompey conquers Galicia and eliminate all Galician units and be sole imperator. Parthia Medea, control starting areas, plus Armenia, Cappadocia, and Syria. Now, some of these were clients, weren't they? Yes, Armenia and Cappadocia. They're one client, Armenia. So not only do you have to defeat Crassus, but you have to beat the client states. If either the Gauls or the Parthian-Medians get their victory conditions at any time, the game's over and they win. Any 2 Roman players can declare a joint victory if they control the only 2 remaining imperators and have fulfilled their other victory conditions. So you could have the historical of Caesar and Pompey agreeing to split the empire after that. And then, of course, you get to play Caesar versus Pompey next. What's interesting about this one is that you can't run off and attack the other Roman factions right at the beginning. The situation also doesn't particularly help you to do so, with the one exception that Cicero's faction is kind of in a stupid place where it can get beat up. So the longer that the Civil War is put off, probably the better that off Cicero is, because he can build up his forces more. He has a huge tax base. He's not losing troops. What's his problem? Well, who's he going to attack? I mean, seriously, he has no one he can fight. And that means his morale is going to plummet. Now, he can work with Crassus over here and send some additional forces there, and maybe plink off, some of the Parthian Medians and get himself some points that way. But everyone else has things they can attack and do some good about. I guess that's about it. Now I'm going to go play with my new graphics card and see if it's better than my old one that I broke. Before I actually start, I think I forgot a couple of things. Crassus has some special rules. First of all, his allied units replace like miners do. Similar to the barbarians, they have their replacement. Right. I covered 2 of these, but Crassus can mobilize units in Italy even if he doesn't own it, just because of his wealth or whatever. He's able to raise forces that other people can't. He decides what to raise before Cicero would get to. Well, I guess that applies to anybody who controls Italy. He does have to have a leader there, though. And with the deity table, Crassus has a penalty on that table of -1, so he will never roll on it unless he wants to be destroyed. There's only one imperator for each faction here, so this could go pretty quickly, if people start playing with the gods. A hell of a lot to deal with in terms of diplomacy here. The 4 Roman factions are forced into an alliance. They'll all be moving at the same time. The only question is, does the Baetica grain go to Rome? Is that even important? 2, 4, 5 grain is available in Cicero's hands. He doesn't want to lose Rome, so he will feed. But even if he came short, Pompey would send him the Baetica grain, because Caesar would inherit Rome, being the closest of the powers. Well, no, actually Crassus would. Crassus would inherit everything, because his forces are right in Rome. And he'd get most things that Cicero has. So we definitely don't want to see Cicero fall apart. The only person who maybe wants to is Crassus, but he can't do anything to stop Cicero from injecting his own troops into attacks in the east. I've put my little markers down where I could, but I don't know that I got them all. So for example, Galatia there. Hey, our friend Galatia. It seems to be a hole. Is that right? Well, Crassus sure the hell doesn't have it, but the Cicero. I don't have it under Cicero. It looks like Bithynia and Pontus are on their own. Galatia is just neutral. Well, it's probably, it's a client state of Cicero's. So that's one of the problems, is I've got these control markers, but I don't have the client states marked, so it's hard to tell what I can move through. There's going to be a lot of lookups. I may try to find some kind of marker to use to mark the client states separately. I don't know. All right, we're just about ready to start. This one is kind of a bitch to set up. It's got it's got a number of big factions and a lot of pieces on the board to begin with. That doesn't make it particularly odd. There are a fair number of such hard to set up scenarios. But I was hoping to actually be able to get through this first turn today, or early. But I'm not going to have time. Quite a few days since I set this up. This one's tough to face. It may be one of the more interesting ones, but it's very, very hard to face. I'm looking at the Gauls, and I'm like, well, first of all, it starts in winter, which makes it hard to get to a big jump. I'm assuming in wild, no roads there. Not certain, but yeah, that's all wild with no roads. So stacking is going to be really tough. My victory conditions really, they're hold what I have and take Narbonensis and Cisalp and Gaul. To do that, I really kind of have to wipe Caesar out. So that's, my primary goal is to start racking up some kills. And I might as well start doing it in the winter too, but I got to start looking, hey, where can I get an advantage? And that involves looking at all these stacks, counting the amounts, seeing what I can hit, what I can't. This game is so full of counting, so full of balancing different things of where can I hit with how much force and everything like that. And those are decisions that are okay in most games, but in this one it all comes down to the numbers, and they're huge numbers because you've got big stacks of units with sometimes fairly large numbers on them, 16s, 20s, There's basically no stacking limit, except as enforced by the supply rules, so you have to do some really ugly, simple arithmetic, and it makes it very hard to move forward towards. It's just, that's no fun, That's not why I want to play war games. I don't want to play them because I like counting factors for the odds tables, and this game is so much about that. Other games, Druid, for example, has a similar type of system, similar kind of problems, but it's on a smaller scale. Here, there's just more pieces in more different places, more different options. I have so many different places I can strike the Romans here. Well, I guess we'll give it a try. It's been, almost a week, What makes me happiest in this scenario is the Gauls have asterisk on their side, or asterisks. They don't have obelix though, so, it's not as cool as it could be. Yeah, I'm not seeing much capability for attack. The movement is 4 per hex or more, which means these ports are only going to get me 1 hex at most. And I don't see anywhere where I'm in position to be able to do that. Now I have to kind of see. I'd love to hit some of these things. There's some 10-10 legionary units, which are unseasoned 2010s. Once they gather together and can make an effective attack, they're going to be somewhat devastating. They'll be able to grow up to their full strength. There's also a couple of 2410s here. Those are irreplaceable because there's no way to build them. Nobody produces 2410s. And I think that's true in all the scenarios. They're always elite units that you lose them, you lose them. Those would be great to attack, but the best I can get is kind of less than 1-to-1. No. The only good thing is, if I attack something like this, this actually has 4 or 5 stacking points. I could kill a unit for nothing, I think. I don't think fortifications give any additional supply status unless they're maximum level, in which case they count as cities. Which means in the winter, and this is another problem, you're going to have to scatter your troops. Yeah, they've been there all winter. Somewhere they found food, but it ain't there anymore. Yeah, the maximum level for it adds the fortification level, but below that does not. So we're here in the forest in the winter and wild. That's a 4 stacking points. That's 1 heavy unit. The Romans are overstacked there, so if I attack them, they'll immediately lose a unit because you have to make supply even on defense. Of course, that means we can't trust that anything's stacked legally, and that we may have to spread our forces out. God, I hate this game. If we look at this space, now this fort will remain. It's one of the special ones, but it doesn't give any stacking. Of course, I do have a supply wagon, but I've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 10, 14 stacking points in a space that only holds 4. Joy, right? Just fucking amazing. So unless I want to start spending my supply wagon each turn over the winter, and it doesn't get that much better over the summer, honestly. It goes up to 8. I still got more than I can hold. I'm going to have to spread out. Now here, I have an extra 8, so I can slip in there. Those don't seem to be owned by anyone. They're not actually cities yet. I don't know, but I assume the Gauls can go occupy them without having to fight them. I don't know if anybody owns them. They're not listed as Caesars. They're not listed as Gaul. I don't know if you have to attack them to take them. Not clear in the scenario, not clear in the basic rules. Without a lot of option either. Like here, I've got a supply wagon, sure, and a lot of stacking points. I don't know how much it all adds up to. Probably over 10. I mean, certainly over 10, but 4, 8, 12. And we got to count always. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 23 stacking points. Well, I can only move 1 hex because this river here. Now I could go deeper into Germania Inferior or something like that. Sounds brilliant. Which means that I'm going to have to be overstacked, and I'm pretty much going to need to eat supplies. I'm going to have to eat from my wagon. There's really no option there, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to undo that. Maybe once I slip up near the coast or something, but as of right now, it's really tough. Now, it's going to be tough on the Romans, too, because if I can take this, the Romans really don't have a port they can operate out of here. Although, if I can get this port, I can operate out of there using the sea supply rules. But that's still only 1 hex during the winter. During the summer, it gets a little better. A little bit better. And, can't cross rivers or anything, but I can at least get from here to there and fight. But yeah, it's almost impossible to figure out anything I can do. And I'm like, I don't even want to do this. I've set the whole fucker up again. Promises to be maybe the most interesting scenario we've seen. Well, probably the most interesting scenario we've seen so far, because the other 2 were shit. But the work involved in trying to figure out what the fuck I can possibly do, spreading out all over, stomping, getting stomped, all that shit. I don't know. I mean, it's not like most operational or strategic games where you can kind of easily guess things. Here, it really is, maybe you just kind of human wave it. I saw Kalismar doing that in one of the scenarios, running through like the Balkans in one of them, where it was just lots of tiny little stacks. Maybe that's what the game turns into in these areas. I don't know. But this one kills me. So for the Gauls themselves, because I have to attack somewhere, I launched my navy in here, smacked up his boats, and this is Caesar's Gallic allies. And then threw the rest of the troops in conjunction with the boats, leadership, ended up wiping them out. They could have retreated before combat, but that's 5 morale. The 3 units at cost would be at most 5 morale. I don't count those units as particularly useful, but I did forget to give the 2 morale for the combat, which the 3 units, the 3 single infantry units are 1 morale each. The combat itself is worth 2 as well, so it wasn't as clear a decision. Maybe keeping some of the troops would have been valuable, but let them die. rather than just take the 5-point hit. Although it does help the Gallic morale as well. I haven't done the Galatians yet. They've got a complicated situation because they got a huge pile of troops. Moving through the clear in the winter is going to be, I'm assuming there are no roads. I know there are roads in some areas of Spain. I'm assuming there aren't any up there. There are roads. No, period 1. There are not roads up in Galicia itself, which goes to here. So we're probably not going to be able to get anywhere. That's going to be 3 plus 1 is 4. So we're not going to be able to wheel our wagons and actually make an attack anywhere. So we'll just be starving. These guys had to, of course, expend some supplies. The Galatians are just going to take a morale hit, I guess, unless I can find something cheap that I can attack, that I can reach. I doubt that I can. I forgot about naval attrition. Less than or equal to the naval attrition value, we have a problem. So on a 1 through 3, we get a problem here. Yay, things went as rolled. Would I have done it necessarily? Yeah, I think so. You know, losing the fleets would have been terrible, but now we won the naval war in the Atlantic, and that's great because currently Rome has nothing up there, and that means our ships can be very, very helpful in terms of controlling things. Otherwise, I don't think Gaul has much of a chance. Like, if they wait this out and let the Romans start building galleys in, you know, up here, or building fleets up there, there's going to be a problem. Anyway, I know this is going incredibly slowly. This is really, really painful for me. All right, to the Galatians, I don't know what the fuck to do. Things just take their 5-point morale hit. I have to defend Legio. I thought this was barbarian, right? Now, it's got a city, therefore it is controlled by that city, and that means I gotta leave forces there. But I also need enough forces that I can fight. I'm putting a threat here on Salamanca, I assume. And we'll see if we can win that. Otherwise, we just, you know, let Pompey do whatever the fuck he wants, because we're just gonna melt away if we don't attack him. On the bright side, well, on the negative side, he can gather all his forces there. He's got supply wagons too, under the threat. On the bright side, I don't know. There is no bright side. I'm playing this stupid game. Move that there. The other winter penalties into account. I forgot. There's one bonus to the winter. You don't actually have to attack. I'm leaving things stand as they are here, except Galicia got its points back. The Romans gathering together here. Pompey making his way there. Now, that's only Pompey's faction. I'm working on all the others, each one individually. They're all supposedly going together, but, you know, as long as they're not, like, setting up to attack one another, we're okay kind of separating them out. This one is the ugliest and hardest of them all. And that's Caesar's side of things. But I don't want to launch an attack. It's basically a 1-to-1 attack until Pompey gets over there. Okay, I think I did all the Roman activity. Over here, whoever this guy, T. Labanus, is marching up, eating supplies. He's able to do it with just one supply, but he's right at the barrier there, including the wagons, etc., to try to threaten the port or whatever. I don't know. This could end up terribly because maybe I can't make it in time. I'll have to spread out and get stomped or something. But I had to get away from these. You can see all the forts are disappearing. Can't sit in them if the Gauls are coming at me. If they're getting close to them, I gotta leave them. And of course, we got Caesar coming forward. We're gonna make a point about Pompey. You can make Kaiser, but whatever. We're more used to the anglicized version. Cicero basically did nothing. He kick her off. Yeah, there we go again. These guys are here, I think. He didn't want to move forward with his forces, although he's got to kind of worry about things because actually Cilicia may not be the best place for my leader. I gotta look here. Asia and Lycia, but he's only got A quality troops, I think. I think they all have only A quality troops. He does have, no, that's from a different game. It's my erasing. So he basically can't create anything over here anyway. He can only create Italian forces. Even Crassus only has A quality troops. He has the B quality allies. But anyway, Crassus moved some forces, I don't know, trying to get them into this big pile. He was going to siege Edessa. Edessa ended up intercepting some of them, killing them. So we got some first blood over there. Nothing else happening anywhere. And now we go over to the Parthians, I guess. Parthians move forward to some extent. This is in the winter zone. We can't really strike that. Ooh, I better be careful. This may not be as rich as I thought it was. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that can barely hold this. Okay, great. The real problem they have is they just don't have very many large units. So they can't do anything about Cassius's big force here. A big stack of 4 and 6 point units just can't compare to a moderate sized stack with 20 point units in it. And then we take a look, let's see. The Parthians also are not all that high a quality. They're B quality units for the infantry. They probably have enough cav that they have the A quality units there. I have to look if this is a game that requires you take losses off the CER that you're using in combat. I don't recall if that's the case. In which case, you'd probably have to take the majority of losses off that. And that's an EU idea with morale. I don't know if it plays in this. It plays in a lot of games. I don't know if it works in this one. But Parthia has a really, really tough time doing any damage to the Romans. It's going to be pretty hard for Crassus to lose to them, as he did historically. Maybe because I don't really know how to use small forces like this, but honestly, the game doesn't seem to give much advantage to them. The only thing you can do is kind of suck them in until their supplies don't work anymore. And if you're kind of in striking distance of them, well, you can always retreat before combat, but that's 5 morale points gone, you know? For the economic phase. Take this off the map. I unpaid for it. I forgot you need a leader. Can't build units in the Baleares usually, which is a shame because they've got archers, and archers are hard to come by, but such is the life of Rome, right? Pompey and Caesar. Pompey able to build in Hispania, Caesar in Gaul, small amounts of forces in both cases, just in the provinces that they're actually in. Crassus, this is not well covered here. Where can Crassus build? He's allowed to build in Italy. It's actually the only place he's allowed to build because everything else is too low a CER level. But he gets first pick, so he can buy all the units, and he actually bought himself a boat too. But he's gathering up whatever he can. I cheated a little bit, slipped one of Cicero's pieces here that could have gotten there so that he can raise some troops in Sicily. He probably wants to spread out a little bit more, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to figure out, hey, where are the A's and everything while you're trying to actually operate effectively and without engaging some navies, well, or having leaders walk across water, which he can do. He wouldn't be able to build troops in Macedonia or something like that. But here's the thing. He'd have a hard time getting those troops where they need to be. They're going to need to be in Italy when the Civil War starts. Whether or not Crassus wants his forces there, that's a good question. Crassus may want to be in the east. The problem with being in the east is there's nothing he can build there. So That kind of works out to be a problem. He may want to be in a position where he could go grab Cisalpina or something like that, maybe cut a deal with Cicero. That's not a great deal for Crassus, but hey, yeah, I'll face Caesar for you. On the other hand, fighting Cicero might not be the best deal either, because Crassus is kind of a problematic situation. He may want to get himself positioned in the Balkans or something like that, where there are troops he can build and can do something good. But anyway, the question is whether or not he can build units, because he owns no cities there. Special rules for this scenario don't make sense, so I say, yeah, let's let the special rules allow him to build in all the cities, because otherwise he technically can't build anything. Now, if it's cities that he occupies with something, then he would have positioned himself differently. I have no idea. Anyway, he's building an additional boat because he only has a few navies and he's got more troops than he can shift over. That left Cicero with almost nothing to build and tons of money. The empire, and I think that's what this scenario is supposed to be about. I think Crassus is going to keep a leader in Italy constantly to keep building troops, although everything's built now for this year. Then I remembered, hey, I forgot my random events phase, so I ran through those. I guess the biggies, this city was destroyed, which could cause some supply problems there. Not until, like, if Crassus picked it, not until Crassus attacks or whatever is it possibly a problem. I think they still fit, but I'm not positive. We also had all kind of modifiers to the die roll here, and I guess they're cumulative. It's going to be a +2 on the weather die roll, which is bad for the winter continuing. More grain in Egypt. That's what that little cube's supposed to represent. I mean, you know, there's no way to mark some of these things. These coins over here, poker chips, are to indicate how many Gauls have been killed. Not counting his own Gauls. I think only Pompey and Caesar get that bonus. I think the idea with Crassus is that, although I don't remember for sure, is that he's supposed to plunder to get money. Not that he needs to. He has plenty of money. Yeah, he doesn't get any extra money, but both Caesar and Pompey get extra money voted to them, whatever, by the Senate for whatever they bag, because there's no plunder opportunities really where they are, and they're short on money to begin with. And they both essentially became important, got donations, etc., because or money voted to them by the Senate because of their successes. So guess we're ready to head into the next diplomacy phase. The biggie with this produces 6 grain, so if you pay your $4, you can get all the grain you need. However, I don't think Cicero particularly wants to deny himself grain, and currently he's got 5 available to him, and nobody can object to that. Right then, on to the second winter month of this game, the March turn. Oh, crap. One more thing I failed to do was, before I did any of this, I should have rolled 2 dice. You have to get a 12 or higher, and there's no modifiers in my favor or against me on this. It's possible that the Civil War broke out. Yeah, not quite. In terms of diplomacy, I don't think there's anything too exciting to be done there. We have all the grain we need. So it's still winter. We'll move ahead with the Gauls. Moved the Gauls themselves, and not much good came of that. I mean, they're trying to consolidate so that they're not as easily wiped out, but I'm really worried that this stack is going to be able to do quite a bit of damage to them. It's connected to the Atlantic. to some of the Roman territory down here. So if it can capture a port, it can then recuperate, or at least remain in supply. The other side of things, the Galicians look even less hopeful. Basically, the fact that the Roman army is here, well, I could attack that. And I'm at about 1-to-1, but they take it as a siege. I can't last out that siege. I am working on a supply wagon, and I only think I have 1 leader, so I couldn't have even bought another supply wagon. Strike down this way, that exposes the possibility of me losing my only province. I honestly do not see a way of surviving here. I think we're looking at something like, because it's wild and forts are actually able to supply better, the full strength forts are able to supply better than cities are in this era, because the city only is going to supply 4, so we can supply maybe 8 strength points during the winter, or 8 stacking points during the winter. Well, that's like 2 units. Wherever I go, I'm going to just fade away. Now, I could make an attack at 1-to-2 and hope for the best and call on the gods, and I think that's what I got to do. It's a complete failure by the Galicians, which gives 32 points over to Pompey. Pompey's pretty much won his section of the war. He'll now start moving forward. Maybe do something else. Just got like 3 talents too. Side of things, Pompey spreading out, because it's hard to use these supply wagons. This one actually sat in place in the city, so it gets a supply point back. We've been eating them up like mad. Not trying to take Galatia yet, because I want to wait until springtime, when I will be charged if I don't do it. I've won the war. It's just a matter of, I want to actually take the city. Caesar's forces kind of pulling away here. I'm a little worried about this guy here, Labienus. He may have lost the war for Caesar. By moving forward, he should have been moving back, trying to find some place where he can find supplies or something. Making it to a port is not going to be easy. Now, he can, of course, disperse his forces, but he does that, and then he's a target for the Gauls. And that could be a real problem for Caesar. If the Civil War starts, Pompey can just slam right into him and take out, the biggest threat leader-wise here. I gave Pompey his money. He's probably never going to need these, because I don't think there are going to be any Galicians. He's going to destroy them before they get any built. Over here, this is Cassius, has moved up a little closer. He's got his supply wagons and everything nearby. He may be in danger of losing his force before Crassus even gets down there, which is pretty common in this game, You can't expect anything that takes time to play out the way you'd expect it to. I got to get in position so that I can attack. There's a possibility, though, of an interception if this attack is done. It also may just be that the Parthians are just too weak to fight a battle over there. Period, the end. Certainly, if Crassus can get there with the forces he has, if some of Cicero's forces can get into play, this is just not going to... The Parthians are in just too much trouble unless they can kind of divide and conquer. So we may well see Crassus coming out of this in pretty good shape. The guy who doesn't look like he's going to be in terribly good shape, of course, is Caesar possibly, but Cicero, he doesn't have anybody he's kind of allowed to attack. I mean, I can march, as long as I'm allied, I can march along with Crassus's forces. And, kind of snipe points off that, so I don't lose whatever I'm getting in terms of, I don't lose morale just for existing, basically, which is what's going to happen until the Civil War starts. Once the Civil War starts, then Cicero, well, then he becomes a punching bag anyway, so. But at least he can legitimately attack things. Here, he doesn't really have the force to take on the Parthians straight out, and he could very easily be eliminated. Unless he's working with Crassus. And that'll put us finally to the Parthians. We'll see what they do. Here we're at one of the interesting test points in the game. Parthian Medea has a force large enough that they can get 1-to-1, maybe even a little better than 1-to-1, maybe 5-to-4 odds against Cassius here, if we don't make it there. Now, making it there, I think Osterhausen Susi does not have roads. If it has roads, it would be trivial to make it there. It does not have roads, it's cultivated. Which means this guy would be, it's winter, but not there. There's a little sunshine there. So, let's see. That's clear terrain. It'll be 1, no roads. 3, 4, 5 movement points. So it's fairly likely that I could get a reasonable odds attack off there. On the other hand, and I would do this automatically almost any time I play. But here's the question. Can the Parthian Medians, who have almost no forces, could they pull back and try to force the Romans to lose or to spread out and cause problems due to supply issues? Part of the problem is this is a civilized area, cultivated area, which means, we're looking at 16, 24 stacking points. I don't really have that big an army. And then if they gather together for their wagon, yeah. I mean, I want to test this out, right? I really want to try it. See if the small force with lots of bad terrain that's kind of not necessarily better quality, though. Infantries are B's, cavalry are A. We're facing Crassus here. I mean, this is the whole real question is, we have probably close to equal odds here. We both have a +2 leader. Our morale, Crassus is only an 87, Parthian Medea is at 113. They have enough cash, they could actually buy it up a little bit. It's unlikely they're going to get hit. I got to go for the attack. But what that means, oh wait, can I? 1, we're in the winter here. No roads. 3. Okay, well, I can't unless I can stack in it. Let's see if I can stack. Because if I can't get a big enough force in stacking to get those odds, my wagon isn't going to make it. In which case, yes, we'll try to run away. No, not winter. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can get my wagon in there. I feel like I have to take the chance. Can these guys run up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think they can. Now, once I'm in there, there's only 1 interception attempt allowed by each leader. So once I get a force in there, that's it. Yeah. All right, let's count the numbers and see if we go in. Interception's better than I thought, too. Because this is no roads, but it is summer. So that's 1, 2. Take it in there. Jesus, I can't do this. What am I talking about? Yeah. I gotta recount everything because this has a bunch of Syrians in it, I think, who the Syrian heavies can't go in there. So I gotta reset everything and try again. Odds are not good. I'm not going in. With that 2 here, he would be able to hit, I think, automatically, to tell you the truth. So, yeah, the fact if it's either roads or good weather, they're going to be able to get in there. So in this case, we're looking at provinces without roads, but the weather's good. So clear terrain is 1. So yeah, we'll be moving in there at a 2 with +1 on the die roll. We're guaranteed to get in there. We don't want to screw with that. Now, we could hit just this, but then he could intercept, and yeah, there's just no chance. So the Parthians are going to try to pull back, and we're going to see if there's any kind of cleverness. Now, what's going to go away because of it is the Parthian morale. It's just going to start disintegrating. And since they're falling back on their own territory, of course, that doesn't happen this turn because it's winter, but as they're falling back on their own territory, the Romans are able to capture Parthian cities on the way. And thus, they're not going to lose any morale. They're going to get the victory point. They're going to actually be taking further morale from the Parthians because they take the city value, they take the province value, and they take 2 points for each battle they win. So you're going to see the Parthian morale just collapse to nothing. That's what happens when you try to withdraw in this game. They don't have much choice, though. I mean, maybe my normal tactic in this would be, well, screw it, a 1 to 2 attack is better than I'm going to ever see again. I'm going to get wiped out if, I have the odds numbers, I have the money, it's time to go for it. That's what we've seen in previous games that I've played of this. This time we're going to try to be clever, and we're going to show you how that fails, I believe. I've never tried it before, to be honest, because it just looks pointless. It's like, yep, it's like taking out a big loan on one credit card to pay off another or something like that. It's just, you're going to get in worse and worse shape as you go. We see the final position for the Parthians. I'm going to send this one up. This is the first of the crisis of the first Triumvirate. Yeah, a lot of grousing. That's what this game does to me. I was mentioning this to Calasar that, I think Calasar, that there is a certain weird pleasure to this game for me. There's a lot of misery, there's no question. It frustrates me to no end, especially that it doesn't turn out historically. But also, it's not a lot of fun to solo. It's more fun to play opposed because you don't have to worry about as much. Especially if you're not dealing with one of these kind of messes where things might actually be interesting, right? Or like that. Where you're just running your troops against each other. Hey, roll die, see who won the game on that, on that little contest, and then go on and see if you can, maybe cut a deal or something and get yourself into the winning position overall. Especially, it's even more fun if you're one of the guys who just gets wiped out immediately, because then you get to just watch and you don't have to do the calculations. But I have to say, there is something about the story, the narrative that it produces, that is still interesting. And all that counting and everything, yeah, it kind of gets in the way. But I start getting the imagery that I do in other big strategic games that aren't quite as obnoxious as this. And it is neat, and it is nice to see the whole, all the different historical eras flow by as you play, scenario after scenario. Of course, that would be a lot more fun even if there wasn't a grand campaign, if there was a campaign that took you through a period. So Marius and Sulla in the Great Mithridatic War, that's one scenario, basically. I mean, it's one time period that could be combined very, very easily. Likewise, the first Triumvirate is followed up by Caesar versus Pompey, Caesar versus sons of Pompey. Now, obviously, if Pompey wins and Caesar's killed, you wouldn't be playing the scenarios that are coming up. But you get this feeling that, gee, you could play kind of this would be the late deck in a Republic of Rome game, And it keeps going in that late deck then. You have the Triumvirs versus the Assassins of Caesar. The second Triumvirate, Antony versus Octavian. And then you jump quite a ways away into the four emperors, and then another big jump. But there are these little periods where it's like, the same people are around. I wanna keep playing. I want things to continue. Even if it wasn't just purely the historical, even if it's driven more by the cards. Oh, look, the Gauls are active now, or whatever. Where it linked in with the Republic of Rome game, it would be a lot more fun. Well, at least the compulsion would feel a little bit more exciting to me. As it is, there's nothing really to drive these scenarios. They just kind of appear out of nowhere, and somebody gets killed in one of them, and you move to the next one, and oh look, they're back again. And sure, I have that when I play my tactical games, like if I play, the SPQR, the Great Battles of History stuff over there. But I don't feel like I'm playing a campaign, the same kind of campaign situation there. And it's like, shit, Alexander died in one game. Well, here he is again, And it might not be death in that case, but here you're seeing, the entire dissolution of the faction, and one seems to almost clearly flow into the other, and it's not, there's nothing to link them. And I think that it wouldn't be too hard to link these, a couple of scenarios in the same era fairly easily. Doing the whole span of Roman history, only if you had some other game like Republic of Rome or History of the Roman Empire to run the framework for it somehow. And even then it would be hard because, I don't know, History of the Roman Empire has its problems because it's like you have some locality to it that doesn't really make sense. And the factions don't really make sense. The factions make more sense in Republic of Rome, although even there, the popularities, well, that's one period's faction. Is it a general current that runs throughout the Republic's history? Maybe to some extent, but certainly they won, right? The helping the poor and becoming more powerful as a state, that became the paradigm, and then it just kept rolling in that direction. Anyway, let's send this up and we'll keep battering through it. But this is one that is not going to end in just a couple turns. Part because 4 of the players aren't allowed to attack each other until they get a lucky dire haul or an unlucky one.